Today's video, everything you need to know about tire safety for your RV and truck, and a review of the TST-507 tire pressure monitor system. So if that's something you guys want to check out, stick around. Inspecting the tires, the wheels, the lug nuts, the center hanger, the shackle link. Hey everybody, welcome back to Why Wait. As you may know, I'm Chris. Megan's hanging out at the pool today, so I thought it'd be a good chance to talk about tire safety and why that's so important, and touch base on tips and tricks and everything to take care of those. And then we're going to jump into a review of the TST-507 tire pressure monitor system, which we've been using for over a year now, and let you know about our thoughts on that and just the installation process and getting it all set up. Obviously, tire safety is a big deal for us RVers. I know for us, everything we own and have rides on these tires going down the road. My family's safety plus all my personal possessions now ride on these tires. So taking care of the RV tires and the truck tires is something I take pretty serious, and it's obviously pretty important. Nobody wants to blow out or be stuck on the side of the road. We've been in that situation. It wasn't a blow up, but we did have some tire issues. If you haven't checked that video out a couple weeks ago, we had an issue with the wheel and axle, and I'll put a link to that up here if you want to go watch that. And you can go see our being stranded on the side of the road for 6 hours. But hopefully today you'll pick up on some tips and tricks and things to look out for and watch out for, so you don't get stuck on the side of the road like we did. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about China bombs if you're on any kind of Facebook site, and people talking about the tires made in China, you know, having blowouts and this and that. I'm kind of a firm believer, if you just take care of your tires and do the proper steps, you know, watch your speed, tire inflation, don't overinflate, don't underinflate, your heat, bearings, all these things, don't overload the camper. For the most part, you know, we had Westlakes previously, and then, you know, supposedly everyone said, oh, you know, the China bombs, the Westlakes were China bombs, and I think that was more of an issue with the E-rated Westlakes. We had the G-rated, and we put over 10,000 miles on them for about maybe almost 4 years, and we never had an issue with them. We did get the camper weighed. We got it professionally weighed at a Escapes smart RV system. Instead of using a CAT scale, you can go to these Escapes campgrounds, and they have an RV weigh system, and it can actually weigh out each tire individually to know exactly how much weight you have on each tire, each axle, for the truck and camper and everything. And it's just a really good system. That way you know if you actually have, obviously, if your camper's overloaded, or if you have too much weight on one side and you need to adjust the weight to the other side of the camper. So that was a very important step. I definitely recommend, if you can, checking out their system. If not, going to a CAT scale. See how much is actually in your camper. You might be surprised, especially if you're full-time. You may be overloaded, and that can be an issue of blowouts right there. Another thing, a reason we have the tire pressure monitor system, is to check the inflation. Most people think if you overinflate the tires that's gonna cause a blowout, but it's actually having the tires underinflated and not enough air in them is actually more of a cause of a blowout. Now, it's pretty standard and recommended to inflate your tires to the cold inflation max PSI, which on our tires is 110 PSI max inflation. And that's something you want to do at a cold temperature, usually first thing in the morning or before the sun heats them up, or definitely not something you want to do after you've been driving on them all day. I keep ours set at the max inflation of 110 PSI, but it's also recommended that whatever tire you have, you can actually go to their website, and they're going to have an inflation chart that you can usually find. And depending on how much weight is on those tires or on that axle, it's actually going to tell you where to set your inflation at. Most of the time, on these big campers, it's going to be the max inflation number, but you may be surprised that sometimes you may actually not have to set them that high. For us, it is 110 PSI on these tires. That's where we set them. Now, before we head out on any trip, every morning, I'll check the inflation and set them to 110 PSI, or if they're within, 2 to 3 to 4 PSI of that number, that's fine. I'll leave them be. You can either do that with just a tire pressure gauge, or we use the tire pressure monitor system. We use the TST-507. I turn it on about 15 minutes before we get going. It gives it time to find all the signals of all the tires, and then I can just check and see that, where the settings on all of them are. And if I need to inflate them or deflate them, I actually use the Weelerz pump. Now, I highly recommend getting the Weelerz portable air compressor or something similar to it. These portable air compressors are going to be strong enough to get your tires up to 110 PSI and above, which is important for our camper. A lot of the pumps you'll find at gas stations in this, they won't get them pumped up that high. And we have an F450, which also requires those tires to be at 110 PSI. So the thing has been great for us. It's another little peace of mind on the road to have that portable air compressor with us. And we've actually talked about it before in a previous video. I'll put a link to that right up here. 20 essential RV items for beginners. And we actually touch base on the TST-507 a little bit. And we also talk about the Weelerz portable air compressor in that. Definitely a good video to check out if you're a newbie, new at RVing. There's some real key items in that video that can actually help you out and save you in a pinch down the road. By the way, if you guys are liking the video so far, we definitely appreciate a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, get the notification bell. That way you get notified each week when we come out with new videos. A lot of videos on RV maintenance and how-to and stuff like that. A lot of helpful things. In fact, I'll even put a link over here to our RV playlist and all the other videos of RV maintenance and black tank and cleaning and product reviews and things like that to help you guys out. Now, back to what I was talking about. Before we leave each trip, not only do I check the PSI, also do a walk around and just inspect the tires visually. You want to look at the tread wear, see if the tread is wearing uneven on one side. Check for any unusual bumps or bubbles on the sidewalls. Just really give them a good one-over and really inspect them. Make sure everything looks okay, nothing looks unusual. Make sure none of the tires look turned, or just visually inspect them. Look for anything out of the ordinary. It's something you want to do not only before you hit the road each day, but it's also something I do every time we stop for fuel or stop at a rest area. I'll go back and just check out my tires. You never know when you're going to be running over that nail, or all of a sudden when the sidewalls may get a bubble in it. You just want to definitely inspect them the most you can. I mean, you can't always be prepared for everything, but it's pretty good to try to catch something when you can before you get back on the road. Something I do to give my tires a little bit extra protection is I always put a UV protectant spray on them. I know some people use the tire covers, and that seems to be more popular with the Class A motorhomes. I see that all the time. And I think that's because a lot of those actually are more exposed to the sun. It's kind of funny with our fifth wheel and where the slides are located. For the most part, our tires actually seem to be underneath the slides, and I'd say they're in shade for 90% of the day. But I still always put a UV protectant on them. I use the 303 UV protectant. I use that stuff on everything. So I highly recommend that. You can get the covers that go over the tires if you want. There's been some kind of pros and cons. Some people say, oh, they don't like that. It builds up the dampness or humidity inside of them. Other people swear by them. So whatever you do, whatever you prefer. I'd say about every 2 weeks, I just go ahead and put the UV protectant spray on there. I've really been happy with that. I use that on everything else anyways. So that's just one way I protect the tires, because eventually that sun, if they're in the sun, it'll beat down on them. You start to get sidewall cracking, and that's another thing you actually want to check out is if you can kind of start to get your fingernail into any cracks in the sidewall, it's probably about time to start getting some new tires. When should you get new tires? Unlike automobile tires, RV tires are a little bit different. They say maybe every 3 to 5 years is a good time span, or maybe 10 to 15,000 miles, kind of whichever comes first kind of thing. So even if you've maybe only driven 3,000 miles, but your tires are 5 years old, it's still probably time to replace them, just because they break down over time, again, like in the sun. So you can find the date that the tire is actually made right on the sidewall. You're going to see a 4-digit number. Usually it kind of has like a little circle around it. The first number is going to be the week of the year that it was made, and the second number is actually going to be the year the tire was made. So you may think, hey, I just bought a 2021 camper, so obviously my tires are 2021 as well. That's not always the case. Sometimes, obviously, they're going to put a 2020 tire on there. It may be a year older. So just check the date on your tire. We just had our tires replaced, and like I was telling you earlier, I think we had about, I keep track of it, I can't remember, maybe 12,000 miles on them, but they were 2017s. So it was about time to replace them. After you've been inspecting your tires and in the morning when you do your walk-arounds, I don't recommend doing this every single time, but you definitely want to get the torque wrench out and torque them down to spec. Just check all the lug nuts for tightness. You'd be surprised how many times I've heard stories of people's wheels actually coming off because the lug nuts weren't torqued all the way. I've even heard of a few instances, read some stories where it happened right from the dealership when someone bought it. The tire came right off, brand new, taking it home, and the lug nuts just weren't torqued down all the way. You can usually find the specs to torque your lug nuts down right in your owner's manual. And we have a video, RV Maintenance 101, and we talk about this, and I kind of show you in the Grand Design book, right specifically where the chart is and how to torque them down in different stages. That's something I usually do every year after I've done my bearings. I always do my own bearings and repack them by hand and then torque the lug nuts down to spec. It's definitely something, depending on how often you travel, that just get your torque wrench out, just make sure they're torqued down good, and another thing to check on before you hit the road. Now, by the way, I'll also be putting links down to everything we talk about today. The UV protectant, the torque wrenches I use, bottle jacks I carry for emergencies, just anything tire related that we talk about today. So let's get into the importance of a TPMS, tire pressure monitor system, and the importance of it. I would say if you're a beginner RVer, whether you're going out on the weekends, full timing, this might be the #1 purchase I would invest in before I begin my journey out there. I know it was one of ours, and I definitely think it's one of the most valuable things you can have. It's such a peace of mind and a warning system to have. Now, right here, the TST-507 tire pressure monitor system, and we're gonna dive into this in a minute. Not only does it show the PSI, but it's also gonna show the temperature of the tires too. And you can set the parameters different on all these things, but it's just such an important thing to have. So many people get blowouts and they travel another 10-15 miles down the road before they even know it, and the tire is just getting worse and worse, and it starts ripping up your camper and doing damage to that, and propane lines and anything that's under there. With this, instantly, as soon as you start to lose a little bit of pressure, you're going to be notified. You can pull over, change the tire, check out the issue, solve the problem before any more damage or maybe an accident happens. I just think it's extremely important to get. They're not the cheapest thing out there, but neither is your camper, and just to protect it, I think it's well worth it. So let's go ahead and dive into the TST-507. I'm going to talk about it a little bit, give you a review of things I like about it. Now, so here it is right here, the TST-507 tire pressure monitor system with the color screen, and I also have the flow-through sensors. Okay, you can get the cap sensors. I like these flow-through sensors because you can just put them right on, and when it's time to air up the truck or camper, you don't have to take the whole sensor off. You can just put your air pump right on here and fill them up, and it's just a great little thing. It also comes with a locking nut, just if you're curious. You can put the little locking nut on, and it keeps people from just walking up and unscrewing these and stealing these. Now, before I get into too much detail about the TST-507, let me tell you, I purchased it from a company called Techno RV online. A guy named Eric actually runs this company. He's a full-time RVer himself. They sell a lot of great products, tire pressure monitor systems, they sell air compressors we talked about. They sell surge protectors, Wi-Fi equipment, just some really great items. And now you can get this TST-507 at Amazon, but I would definitely recommend going through Techno RV just because they give you a great learning system that comes with it. But what's cool about Techno RV is when you buy a product from them, you're gonna get an email with a learning system too. They're going to have an email with everything laid out for you, installation, tips, and all kind of things you're not going to find on Amazon. Not only that, but Techno RV has a bunch of great videos on YouTube themselves on how to program all this equipment, how to use it, all kind of recommendations for it. And I'm going to put links down below to the YouTube videos for Techno RV series and their learning series for the TST-507. Definitely check it out. They're going to get into a lot of detail, more than I'm going to get into today, on how to install it, how to set the parameters, how to just get it up and running, and really how to dive in. It's what I used when I got it, and I was really thankful for it. It just made setting the whole system up super easy following his videos. They're going to be right there for you if you have an issue, if you need to email them or contact them with questions. And that's, again, just another nice peace of mind of ordering and dealing with them. And I'll have the link down to the TST-507 to be ordered right through Techno RV below in the video description for you guys. Okay, let's go talk a little bit about the tire pressure monitor system now and why I've liked it for the past year and a half so much.
Okay, so here's the box that it comes in. Obviously, I've had this for a year and a half, so it's pretty beat up. As you can see, the monitor can actually monitor up to 115 tires. I mean, you can have like your truck, your RV, your towed that you may tow behind that, a trailer, a boat. You can set this up for so many different tires. So it comes with a repeater right here that you can hook up to the battery in your camper. And that's going to strengthen the signal from the Wi-Fi signal from the sensors all the way to your monitor. Now, I don't have the repeater installed. I was gonna see if I needed it first. We have a 40-foot fifth wheel, and I don't need the repeater. It actually picks up all the camper tires, no problems without going down the road, so I've never needed the repeater. I'm assuming if you're gonna tow a car behind your fifth wheel, or if you're triple towing, whatever, double towing, you're definitely gonna wanna install this, but I just haven't needed it. Right here is one of the flow-through sensors. You can get, I'm not too sure, as many of these as you need. The kit I got came with 10 sensors. You can set it up for 12 if you have a toy hauler with 3 axles, or however many you need. Now, as you can see, I have the number 1 on here, a little sticker. These little stickers come with it because you want to make sure you know which sensor goes where. So they recommend kind of drawing a little picture, and I got sensor 1, 2, this is my truck. So I know sensor 1 is on the driver's side front tire. Sensor number 2 is on the passenger side of the truck. My dually tires in that order, and then my camper tires. And that's just important to put the stickers on because you have to basically manually set each one of these up into the system. And after you do that, you want to install them in the correct places.
So here's a screen that goes in the cab of the truck, and you can see right now it just periodically runs through each tire. There's my camper tire, 82 degrees, 107 PSI. 84 degrees on the next camper tire, 108 PSI. And it's going to continuously, while you drive, just go through each one, just cycle through each one. What's nice is you can set this temperature anywhere you want it. So if it gets up to, say, 150 degrees, the alarm will go off and let you know. Let's say it drops down to 60 degrees. If you want it set for a low temperature, the alarm will go off and let you know. Same thing with the PSI. You set the parameters. If I have my tires, I usually run them at 110 PSI. I can set, if it gets too low, if it drops down to 90, the alarm's gonna go off and I'm gonna instantly know that something is wrong. Let me jump up in the truck and show you. It comes with this nice little stand that you can either just put on the dash, a little rubber stand that you can have in here, or it comes with the window suction cup mount, which I prefer to use. Pop that on there, and you're good to go. You can tighten it up, you can move it around however you need it. When you're not using it, you can just pop it off there, simple as can be. You can actually see the color screen really good in the sunlight, which I like. Prefer to maybe some of the black and white screens. I've been really happy, and it's been really easy to read. And I'll tell you another thing, the battery here, usually I'll charge that battery before we go on a trip, and I'll usually get maybe 4 to 5 days of towing with this thing running nonstop before I have to charge it again. Also comes with this little tool right here, and this is to put the little locking nut on, and also to get it off so that people just can't come by and steal it. I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about right over here. So come with me and I'll put one of these on and show you. I'll just take the valve stem cap off right here. Now, the thing with these flow-through sensors, it is only recommended for steel or metal valve stems. The flow-through sensors are not recommended for rubber valve stems. I think it's because they're a little bit bigger than the cap valve stems. So that's something you may want to just definitely check your camper or whatever vehicle you're going to put these on. Make sure you have the metal valve stems. For us, the camper and the truck both had the metal valve stems, so it wasn't an issue. But if you don't, you may just want to get the cap sensors. But let me go ahead and put this on. The first thing you're going to do, you're going to put this little locking nut on here. And you're just going to screw that on. You're going to take your monitor system and you're just going to put that right on. A little air comes out when you put it on. Screw it on nice and tight. Put the cap on. Screw that on. And then you can either take a small little wrench. You're just going to spin that back. And then you just put this little wrench on here. It fits in there nice. And you're just going to turn and lock that nut. And now if I wanted to, I can't get that off. You'd have to have a tool to get that done. Get my hands dirty here. So that's pretty cool. Now I will tell you, I installed these on my dually. And we'll walk back here. And some of these were actually difficult to get on because of the way the valve stems were. These actually fit pretty good. I just got new valve stems put on. I used to have the valve stems that would turn and go basically into here, and I would have to reach through here and put them on. You can see this one's actually right here on the back side of the dually. And I'll see if I can get in here. I'm not gonna say that it was easy to get that on, and it was definitely really hard to get the locking nut on. Now I'll tell you right now, I had a couple valve stems on the dually that just because of the way they lined up with my rims, I could not get the sensors on, and I had to order valve extensions. And if that's something you need, you can actually also get that on Techno RV. They actually have a couple different wide variety of valve stem extensions to make it easier to put these sensors on in case you're having trouble with the dually tires. That's the only place I had issues with. The camper and everywhere else, it was no problem. Now another feature that I like on this is my truck is an older truck, and there is no tire monitor system that comes pre-installed with the truck. I didn't have one. So this was another bonus for me so that I can monitor all my truck tires. And I can also just monitor the truck tires without the camper tires, because basically if I was to drive off right now, I'm going to lose signal on the camper tires and it's going to start, you know, beeping and going off. So all you have to do is hit go plus or go minus, and you can see you can shut everything off, or you can just run the camper tires, or you can just run the truck tires. A lot of times when I'm just light truck, I just turn it on and I just monitor my truck tires as I drive around town. So I really like that feature as well. All right, guys, I think that about covers everything. Like I said, I wouldn't, you know, drive without it. It was one of the first purchases I made. I definitely think it's an important item to have, especially if you're a full-time RVer. Everything you have, everything you own, your family, all depends on these tires. I call it like the foundation of your house. I've been really happy with the TST-507. I think it's probably one of the best ones on the market, and just couldn't be happier with it. So I guess that's about it. Appreciate you guys stopping by. I hope the video helped you out. Stay safe out there on the road, and remember, start your full-time adventure, because why wait? We'll see you guys next week.